All right, good morning. We wanted to go and get started with an update with Adrian Walker, who's our historic preservation planner here at the city, to give you an update on Miraflores Park. As you guys were aware, we notified you all in the public that we had found evidence of unmarked burials maybe 30 days ago or so, and we wanted to give you some of the results of what has been found and then what our next steps are. So wanted to start with that, take your questions on that, and then we'll move on to the rest of the day's items. So anyway, Adrian, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor. As he said, we had Terra Explorations, Inc. here about 30 days ago conducting the ground penetrating radar of Miraflores Park. We did receive preliminary interpretation from them, and they've identified 45 unmarked burials in the area that they surveyed. With that, their recommendation is to return and survey the remaining portion of the park. I also recommended that as historic preservation planner, so they will be returning to Pensacola sometime between today, February 6th, and February 23rd to survey the east half of the park. They will then interpret and analyze that data, add it with what they have, and then submit us their final findings. The canine survey was also pretty successful. They did identify several known locations of burials that the GPR also picked up as well. They will not be returning for the second part. It'll be just the ground penetrating radar. It should happen over the course of 1 to 2 days. And I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
You have indication that it's continue to report the possibility of finding more bodies or remains?
The reason that Terra Explorations and myself recommended that additional survey is needed because there were unmarked burials found pretty close to the edge of the survey area. Because of that, it's in our best interest to survey the entire park to make sure that there aren't any additional burials, and there very well could be.
Is there a certain area that it's more concentrated where the remains have been found? Like, is it like close to, is there a marker that you could describe where they're found?
So they are found in a typical pattern that we would expect for historic burial ground. They're somewhat in a linear fashion. They are somewhat clustered in a space together, which is a fairly large area. So it will be very interesting to see what the rest of the survey says and how we can move forward with protecting those burials.
Is the area going to be marked off? So
at this time, there's no plan to do that. We'll need to wait and see what the rest of the survey says, and from there we'll look to the community advisory group and the community itself to help us figure out how to interpret it.
Has there been any more uncovered in the historical research about the history of the cemetery?
We have not found any more information from an archival perspective, though I am still looking. We have asked that Terra Explorations provide us a proposal for what it would cost to have one of their staff conduct a deep dive, including going to the National Archives, looking in state repositories, and the hope would be that a future grant could fund additional research. Any other questions? All right, I don't want to
go ahead.
Yep.
I know, Mayor, you mentioned there's a plan to do a renovation of the Boy Scouts building. Is that on hold now because of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be in the budget. You'll see, from in this council meeting, it's going to be part of the LOST proposal. That's what we've estimated, that, and it does need repair, and has for quite a while, actually. And that's with that $70,000 estimate. But certainly, if we'll probably take a closer look at it, and if we're talking about the roof or something like that, that could really start to continue to deteriorate the condition of the structure itself, we may go ahead and take care of. But certainly, I think it's that this takes priority, and certainly would be fitting and understandable. I would think that as we figure out how to best commemorate this and honor the people who are here, the families that have been affected, that the building, the structure that's already there, may play some role in that. what that role is, it remains to be seen. But so we'll make sure that we're not continuing to have that building deteriorate and jump on those types of items if it's just a matter of a roof or a floor or something like that.
Has there been a plan to reconvene the community advisory group in light of this?
Yeah.
The intent was to hold a public meeting of the community advisory group once we had our results, but now with the results and the recommendation to do additional survey, I have reached out to the community advisory group, and we're aiming for an April to May time period, and that's to complete the rest of the survey and give time to get those results so that we'll have something to discuss at the meeting.
And want to add to that, I'm sure you guys like us will get some common questions like, are we going to know where they are? Things like that. There's some statutory protection in those types of things. Obviously, that's very sensitive information, so obviously we want to be careful about disseminating that type of information and people. Yeah. So we certainly. So on one hand, marking it off would be a double-edged sword, at this point. So. We'll do the best we can to navigate that. And again, they're on it. So, they're, as Adrian said, between the 6th and the 23rd, getting that other part of the park done because of how close some of those unmarked burials were to that boundary. That if they had been clustered in a different way that were fully kind of inside the current, then we would have probably just gone ahead and moved forward. But it's that proximity that makes us. We've come this far and we've learned so much, and we want to make sure that we do it right and make sure that we know the full picture here. So.
I think it was in the research y'all put together, but there was kind of a map that showed like an estimated area where the cemetery was, and some of it overlapped to where the streets and maybe a couple of private lots. What's the concentration of the burials, and is it concerned that is it pretty consistent that it would continue out into the street and private lots, or is it concentrated into a different area, or can you elaborate?
I can. I'm glad you brought that up. We have one historic map with a fenced-in area showing where this burial ground was projected to be. The dated to 1884, so you have to take those mapping skills and technology with a little bit of a grain of salt. That's what we based the survey area off of. We did survey 16th Avenue. We were able to close the street temporarily to do that. No unmarked burials were found within the street, city right-of-way. There were also no burials indicated at the playground area, so we're able to sort of clear that area. So they are concentrated away from those parts. We can't speak in terms of the private property. It would be up to a private homeowner if they wanted to potentially have their property surveyed, but they do seem to be concentrated within city property. And
obviously, as we continue to do work here, certainly we ask the community to be as respectful of that as they can. Excuse me. Moving forward, and want to thank all the partners. Adrian will be able to make sure I don't miss any, but I know Adrian and her team here internally have done an awesome job of navigating this and continuing to do so. University of West Florida, National Park Service, remember, giving us the grant, the funds to ultimately do this first part and second part of this. So very, very thankful for the entire team and that we continue to make progress with this. So. Any other questions on that? If not, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. The rest of the news of the day is obviously you guys have seen. We're hopeful for the $2.2 million on the Senate side of things for Bay Bluffs Park, and we're working alongside Conservation Florida with the expectation that all of the Bay Bluffs Park, which is many acres, some of which the city owns, some of which the city actually leases from. I may have it wrong, and I think it's DEP or someone. There's some leaseholds there that'll make that very doable, but maybe a little extra logistics to get done. But the ultimate goal is to preserve that forever. And what this $2.2 million would allow us to do is to demolish, and then I think we're going to let the public help decide alongside Conservation Florida, who has a history of doing projects like this to preserve and still allow that interaction. What that looks like in terms of raised paths, primitive paths, gazebos, boardwalks, those types of things. I think we will probably let the community help decide that, and we'll have plenty of time to. But job one is to find the funding to be able to get this done. And as you guys know, we have multiple seven-figure repair issues at our hands right now. So that would I do appreciate the support of Senator Broxton and Conservation Florida. That really adds to the muscle of this ask, and hopefully we were able to see that through. We are also very excited. You guys saw the news on Friday. Appreciate Governor DeSantis and for the $4 million at Fricker Center. That brings us to a total of $9.5 million. And that we talk about transformative opportunities a lot, whether it be American Magic or Baptist, but also taking a community center and making it the best community center it can be, which is opportunities for education, opportunities for jobs, opportunities for healthcare, and improving healthcare outcomes is what that $4 million is about. And so between the $5.5 million to help renovate Fricker, make it a stronger structure and make it last, it certainly is in desperate need of those repairs, and then to have an additional structure facility that we really want to tailor to our senior community. We only have the one senior facility here in the city that we're able to have that funding that we wouldn't otherwise be able to afford in our general fund to really make transformational change in one of our vulnerable communities here in the city. So very, very excited for that. And again, a huge thank you to so many Parks and Rec, Public Works, our grants department to be able to get that one done and across the line. So we have signed for the $5.5 million, so we can get moving on that portion of it. But just like there's going to be some lag time in terms of being awarded the grant and being able to expend the funds, the $4 million would be treated the same way. So, and again, that's for a separate aspect. So we can go ahead and we know holistically we can plan for the 9.5, but we can get to work on the 5.5 portion pretty much at this point moving forward. We have a few years to do that. So looking forward to that. The Project Reconnect update. You guys probably got the release from Escambia County that they have that new program that offers free transportation to eligible individuals that want to reunite with family and friends. We believe that the best outcomes for some of the homeless community is that they get to where they have family, where they have friends, where they have a group, a team around them to help give them that hand up. And so certainly we're grateful for the county of starting that. We're going to be great partners in that. Our community response team has had some success already, actually, as a matter of fact, helping some folks be able to get back to their home in Alabama. We had two folks that were downtown that had been panhandling previously, and now we were able to connect them at no cost to them back to where their family is. So excited to continue to help and support that program. Malcolm Young, obviously we've talked about it a lot. Just some clarity, because I've gotten some questions just in the community out and about what's going to happen at the property, what kind of affordable housing, should it be park property? That was mentioned in the council meeting before. On the March CRA, we're going to bring that as a discussion item, so about what the future should be. Now, obviously you guys know my opinion, I think, and this isn't just my opinion, it's what the community has told us through data and through surveys, is affordable housing is a major, major issue. I don't know how many things rank above that other than public safety. So that, yes, that is what I will support, but as we always should, we should hear from the community, from our TRA, our council. That's why they're here. We got to hear all different perspectives and figure out what the best use of that property is moving forward. But the reminder is, as I tell people that, someone may have mentioned, well, do we need to talk Thursday about whether it should be a park or affordable housing? The answer is no. Ultimately, the item, it's already been approved by CRA, and the item that will be on the agenda on Thursday is whether you're demolishing the building or not. So certainly people can speak to that. If they have an opinion about that, we certainly want to hear it. But I think we want to clear the misunderstanding that a decision will be made on Thursday about exactly how the property is going to be used. We're going to continue to have those conversations moving forward, and certainly people can always share their feedback. They can email me, email our CRA board, and anyone with any ideas or any concerns that they have. I hear a lot of the same concerns when you talk about affordable or attainable housing. There's a lot of misnomers out there that citizens who may not follow these issues as closely might have different ideas of what that actually means. Right now, 80 to 120% AMI workforce housing is still, that is not something to downgrade the ability to pay that rent right now in our community. The ability to pay that rent with our city employees right now, that would qualify for that. So we'll see what the process is moving forward. I certainly continue to support any opportunity. It's not just at Malcolm Young. Any opportunity that we have to turn property into housing people to live in the city is something I'm going to generally support. But again, we're open to ideas, and we'll have that conversation about what's next at the March CRA. Update on pickleball. We have a phase 1, that's 8 outdoor courts. The contractor's been approved to start fencing and civil site work. And just last couple things, evacuation plan and all that for the outdoors. We expect the final permit to be issued in the next 7 to 10 days. And I think the contractor's targeting the end of March, early April for phase 1. So we'll actually have pickleball. That's correct. Yes, warehouse 4. It will be out. So we remember my last update was they were going to go ahead and get some pickleball courts built outside, which was part of the larger plan. But they can do that and then start going into the building, as you can imagine, would be a much longer project, a much heavier lift. And so they're going to go ahead and get the 8 pickleball courts outside done, completed, bathrooms, evacuation plan, all of that, get it permitted, ready to go. Looks like it'll be done in the spring. So happy to see that, and happy to see that progress going there. And then, again, I'll take any questions you got on that. Road closures, of course, it's Mardi Gras weekend, so we're going to improve our process for our downtown business owners and our citizens that are visiting our downtown of providing some more clarity about when barricades go out. We've gotten a couple questions, and I would say not just over years of time we've been a little inconsistent about, do they go out Thursday, do they go out Friday, and a lot of that is honestly understandable. It's a staffing issue. We've got to get people that volunteer. It's a paid work, but we have to ask city employees to volunteer their time on weekends to do that. That's not an easy ask, so we're looking at, my goal by the end of this year is to have real clarity that barricades go out this day, they come up this time, and be able that all parade organizers, all business owners downtown know exactly how it's going to work. I think that's not an unreasonable ask, and so we're going to continue to work through that. So as a first step to that, we want to do a better job communicating how that's going to work this time. So barricades going to be set up in 2 phases. They'll start going out Thursday, February 8th, early in the morning, and it'll be curbs and medians on East Garden Street, and then curbs only on North Palafox, starting at East Wright and continuing to East Main. So we'll get the barricades out there ultimately on Thursday, and then the curbs on North Palafox from East Wright to East Main. The main part of that will be Friday, February 9th, starting at 4. So remember, that's right just hours before the parade. So we want to navigate that balance of being able to get all of that infrastructure done, but also not give a perception that things are closed or block off pedestrian areas or anything like that. So the road closures themselves are Friday, 4:30 Spring Street, and then 5 o'clock is the rest of the route, because we got to get everyone lining up Friday at 4:30 on Spring, and then the 7 o'clock parade begins Friday, and then at Saturday we'll close Spring Street at 10:30 in the morning. Palafox, the rest of the route will be at noon, and then we start with the 2 o'clock parade. So we'll get that information out. We'll share it on our social like we normally do, just so everyone's aware of those closures. But just be patient with us, and obviously if you don't want to run into a traffic jam or have to make a U-turn, I would stay, and you're just trying to get across town, I would stay Cervantes and North at this point, just because it's a great problem to have. We have a lot of people coming downtown to enjoy Mardi Gras. Want to keep you guys may recall that I gave you an update when Fire was doing a training with a fuselage that was on fire at our airport. We didn't want to make sure citizens knew as they were flying into our airport that there wasn't an airplane on fire. There's some more fire department training today, Wednesday and Thursday at Transmontane at Club Street. You'll know that as the white, right here next to Bruce Beach, the white, I call them little tankers. There's probably a better term for that. But anyway, we're going to be doing a 3-day training there. So you may see a lot of firefighters down there, a lot of engines. I don't want to scare anyone into thinking something's going wrong here. That is an emergency preparedness exercise. So you may see a lot of apparatus there. Don't worry. And if you have any concerns, certainly reach out to us. But I know you guys have reported some. Rogers Scott Tennis Center did soft open on Monday, the 12 new courts. And again, we will have a grand opening once we're done. We want to go ahead and get those in play. It's been quite a while. And again, a big thank you to Public Works, Parks and Rec. It's very exciting. It's the largest facility we have here in the county. Thank you to Escambia County for their contribution to it. So we're glad to have those back in play, and we are putting the finishing touches on shade structures, some other things like that. So if you went out there today, you'd see the fencing and the nice new courts, but there's still some other additions we're going to be making. And once we do all those, we'll have our official ribbon cutting probably in April or May. Monitor drop-off, collected another 600 pounds there from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. My expectation is that we'll have, two things are happening. We're crafting an RFP for curbside recycling. We feel comfortable enough with some of the conversations that we've had with some third parties that there could be a potential solution, whether it's weekly, whether it's twice monthly. Some of those, we're going to see what they say in the RFP, but our goal was to have some just general conversations with some third parties about if it's even feasible or not, if you guys recall. So we feel comfortable enough to go ahead. We're going to move forward with an RFP, craft that. Our goal is to have that done by March 1st and on the street, so we could allow some of those third parties to propose what they like. Now, I will tell our community that what I expect will happen no matter what. If there is an RFP that's reasonable in terms of cost, if I'm one of these organizations, I'm going to say, well, I'll do it at this price with a certain minimum number of subscriptions. So, our expectation, which I think would be fair, is to say, okay, well, if 5,000 people sign up, whatever the number is that makes it work, makes the financials work, we're going to be reporting back and trying to connect our citizens to say, hey, well, there might be a period of time where we got to show that there's going to be enough interest in it to make it work. So that RFP will go out, and we also continue to pursue other options like an assisted drop-off at Summit Boulevard and all that, and we could do both. But a lot of those are kind of chicken and egg, how much we do curbside. For example, if we did once a month curbside, just as an extreme example, well, then there's going to be more recycling at the drop-off. If we do once a week recycling curbside, there's going to be less material at these drop-offs. So how we handle both of these kind of have to work together. But March 1st is kind of the date in my mind where we're going to start to really have some answers, or at a minimum be out on the street to get some proposals from third parties. The parking app transactions still going really, really well. 14,000 now. We've had, that's month to date, 14,001, and zero reported app issues this past week. And month to date, we're at about 12,000 with Park Pensacola. And we've got a pretty robust marketing plan still out there that'll continue to be pushed through February and March to make sure that we're getting the information out to anyone who may still be using the old app. Another thing that just to report, I've told you we're in the process of assessing having a full list of what we own, which our assets. So our team is close to finalizing that now. I met with them. We worked through a draft. We have, just as an example, anecdotally, we have about 105 structures that the city owns, and we have about 39 leases out there in terms of those assets that we have, and that range from there could be multiple structures at one park, there could be all the way to community centers. Those types of things. So that's just to give you an idea of kind of the level of detail that goes into this. The next phase of this is going to be, we're going to take those 39 leases, and if there's maintenance responsibility on the leaseholder, we're going to have our new facilities and fleet maintenance. Russell and his team get around to these places, make sure that they're doing what they say they're going to do, and making sure that we do what we say we're going to do. I would venture to guess that of those 39 leases, there's probably some things that the leaseholder's not doing that they said they would, and I would venture to guess there's some things that we promised them as the city that we may not be doing or may not be on top of. So that's why it's going to be really valuable to have that list, is we can now start to make sure that we're taking care of these things that we own. So looking forward to having that finalized. I believe that is it. That is it for my updates, and then happy to take questions about that or anything else you have. Yeah.
Mayor, what's your reaction to Coach Washington's offer to purchase Malcolm Young?
Well, yeah, I wrote him back and said we're not entertaining that at this point. And if the decision was after the March CRA that the best thing to do was to sell the property, then we would probably go through a more standardized process of that. So, the same way that we were proposed a solution to repair it that our engineers disagree is a solution. I said the same thing then. Is while I appreciate the enthusiasm of unsolicited offers, if we decide as a CRA, as a city, that that's the direction we want to go, that we would keep the building and sell it or demolish and sell it, then. But to be honest with you, I think my concern about affordable housing, if we just go off and sell it directly, I don't know that we don't control what happens there. And to be honest, the big misperception we have here is that there's a lot of conversation about, well, not losing this for the public good. We gave it away from the public good. I mean, we gave it away. It was going to be out of the public good for 20 years because of a lease that we signed. And yes, I'm aware that it says, well, the city can use it with permission. But if we have that in a lot of leases, and you should go see how many times we use it with permission. And I don't think that we could go to a leaseholder and say, by the way, the city would like to use the gym 4 days a week for 6 hours a day. So just because it's in a lease doesn't mean it's something that you can realistically count on or use with any regularity. So this was already out of the public good. So the argument that we're losing this from the public good, we should have talked to the city council from 3 years ago who gave it away and put it into private hands for the next 2 decades. So, if we had not done that, if we had not shut this building down, this would continue to be in the hands of a private organization and would be for as long as I'm mayor and maybe the next mayor. So that's where we are with it. So again, this week is about just finalizing the approval. It's already been approved by CRA to demolish the structure, and then the future of that structure in whatever form. Future of the property, selling it, affordable housing. I know it was mentioned after I left that meeting about potentially using it for park property. I'm certainly willing to hear that out. My initial concern is there's a park like that's an entire city block that's catty corner to it. So as we talk about needing to maintain more things, I don't know that in my opinion that's the highest and best use. But again, I'm certainly wide open to hear any creative ideas and thoughts that we have out there that So I may have my inclination on where I want to go with affordable housing, but part of this job is to be open-minded about what else is out there. So we're not entertaining unsolicited offers to buy a building that's not safe enough for people to go in at this point. I think we're gonna play this out, and if that's where we land, then certainly Benny Washington or anyone else can put a bid in to purchase the property if that's the direction that we go.
I was going to follow up on that. Is it even possible for the city to take an unsolicited offer to, I think it was exclusively negotiate when you have to open it out open to the entire public?
That's a good question. I'm not I've been in this job 15 months, so I don't want to speak in absolutes, but I can't come up with a scenario. There are scenarios where it can happen if it makes some sense. What the cost limits are, who owns the property, is it the CRA? I mean, there's some complication to it that we would have to look into whether it's possible or not. But it's moot in this case because for a piece of property that size, if we were just going to go sell it, it isn't going to be the first person that just runs to the door that would be able to buy it. We would go the right thing to do of a parcel of that size. Now, has the city sold ancillary pieces of property that were next to a operating business for a parking lot, or I think those types of things where it makes sense and maybe it's only valuable to the neighboring private lot, those types of things. I'm sure have happened through the years, and as a matter of fact, we had that with the parking lot behind, actually next to Malcolm Young. There was a vacant parcel that was used for decades as that church's parking lot there on 9th Avenue. and they had a parking requirement, and they're turning a blighted building into a structure and approached us. So there's scenarios like that we make sure people are paying what fair market value for it, but on something this size that was a city asset, a park asset, I can't come up with a scenario of why we would just take an offer when it came in and accept it.
Mayor, is there any update on the Pensacola fishing bridge?
That would come from the county. I will tell you, we've had, I know our team here at the city and the county are working together very closely, because to get to that fishing bridge is kind of interesting. It's the cities until you get to the foot of the bridge, and then it's the county. So they're kind of landlocked in that respect. So that means to rebuild it, they're going to be using our city park as a laydown area, and of course all that traffic going through. I know our intent is to close Wayside, probably somewhere in the vicinity of the Visit Pensacola building, and for however long that it takes. But yeah, you'd have to ask the county on exact. I know that they should be getting pretty close to getting started, but time frame, all that kind of stuff, I just would hate to speak for them on that. You'd have to ask them.
Do you know if there's any other movement or talk about establishing a different downtown post office location?
Yeah, so I told you I reached out. I actually have our federal lobbyists in D.C. Working this as well with the Postal Service. I did make contact with the postmaster here, shared my information, sent her. She asked me to send an email kind of describing that, and that they would reach out at the appropriate time, that they were looking at other facilities. But right when we talked about it initially, when we had heard the news, we made that contact, and certainly I haven't heard back from them, but I've made them aware we're certainly more than willing to if we can be helpful. This is not their first time doing this, and I know the federal process is going to be very complicated, and so they may be just fine looking for finding a place without the mayor's help. But I want them to know they've got the mayor's help, because it is valuable to us. So any updates that we ever get that we can share, certainly will. But at last conversation with them, they were going, when this closed, they were going to be looking at other locations downtown. I can't speak to if that still remains, or what size facility, what location, but certainly the conversation would have ended pretty quickly if they said we aren't going to do that at all. So at least at that point, late last year, they were still entertaining looking for another downtown location. And I hope that remains the case.
Who's your lobbyist in D.C.?
What's that?
Who's the lobbyist?
Dan McFall
Okay.
with Ballard. Yep. And if you know Dan, he does an awesome job for us. He's up in Washington D.C., but he's a Pensacolian, and we work with him very closely, and have probably most on the airport right now, more than anything up there. Actually, very appreciative that Chairman Sam Graves, the chairman of the Transportation Committee in Congress, wrote a letter on our behalf supporting the airport terminal to Secretary Buttigieg and FAA, and that of how much we need this airport terminal. And so very, very appreciative of Chairman Graves for doing that, and hopefully that helps us only build our case to be able to get some of the federal funding as well as the state funding moving forward.
Mayor, I got a two-parter on the Gibson School.
Yeah.
Have you heard back formally from the school district on your interest in acquiring that property? And two, would you use the same process to determine what the ultimate use of the property would be, like you would do with Malcolm Young? The CRA would have community meetings and things like that.
Yeah. Let me answer the first part. So the where I see the value, excuse me, where I see the value with Gibson School in terms of making this, look, we all agree that a building with that kind of history, especially in our African American community in the city, is something worth saving. And that's, as I've said, that this is our last shot to make sure if it goes into private hands, they may keep it, they may preserve it, they may not. Of course, we are coming in solely with the intent to be able to preserve that building. The $570,000 offer is the appraised value from the school district. And of course, the additional expenses that were approved yesterday allow us to close on it, as well as do a structural assessment. And because I don't think it would be fair to the CRA or anyone for us to say what we're going to save it, and then we get a structural assessment saying that, it's going to be, $5 million, $10 million to or more just to keep the roof on. We want to have a clear picture of what's going to happen there. And again, because the size of the parcel, we have our team looking internally, CRA team, kind of what we did with Malcolm Young. You might have been at that presentation where we kind of said, hey, without any variance changes, you could have 14 affordable homes here, could go up even higher. We're going to probably do the same kind of assessment while we wait with Gibson to say, okay, well, on the back half on B Street over there, how many, and it could be anything. It could be land trust, it could be habitat, it could be, but how many, homes, affordable homes can we fit on the backside? And then it's really a two-part strategy. I think one is how do we extract value for affordable housing on B Street? And then second is what's the right solution for how we preserve the building? And so I've been asked, are we going to use it for this use, that use? It's kind of like the Baptist Hospital question, or Malcolm Young, which I love the enthusiasm. People want to know what we're going to do with it. But, my goal with Gibson is whatever the use ends up, that this does not become a long-term financial burden for the city. But for $570,000, if we're able to extract the value of getting parcels for affordable housing, as well as whether we long-term ground lease it to someone and let them do the improvements. Kind of think about the pickleball structure as an example. That's a building that hasn't been leased since 1979. They have to spend $4 million. So yeah, their rent's low because they're about to spend $4 million to improve a building that would be on our dime, the taxpayers' dime, at some point moving forward. And so that's the same concept: is could someone take the preserve with the number one rule being they must preserve the building? Is there some other use that could, and I think we would probably talk with the community about that, as well as some kind of RFQ or letter of intent like we're doing with Motor Lodge and like we're doing with Main Street, where we'd say, hey, tell us what you do with it and what kind of money you'd want to invest in it. And so it would be too early to speculate because there's a lot of creative people out there. They may say, well, we'll take the top floor, we'll fix it up, we'll take the top floor for our office, and then the bottom floor we'll have a child care service come in, and who knows what they're going to propose. So, but the bottom line is our interest in why I said yesterday, this is why a CRA exists. It is to ensure that we aren't losing the character of our community and the history of our community. And we can step in, unlike a private developer, we can step in and say, hey, these funds are a subsidy ultimately to making sure that we create affordable housing and we save the history of this city. So, so very, very excited and appreciative of CRA board support, and excited to see what comes of it moving forward.
The first part was, have you heard back from the school district?
Sorry, first part.
Response to your
So how property acquisition, my understanding with school district is we show our interest, we make an offer, ultimately that, and we sign, and then it goes in front of the school board. So, it's a little different. Typically, for example, when we get the lease from American Magic, that doesn't come to council until it's been signed on their side. In this case, this has got to be signed first on ours. So, but yes, we've had conversations with them. Obviously, we're not just sending a random offer with a random number. We know that the 570 is their appraised value of the parcel as is right now, and I expect that we continue to move forward with that, and we'll see. Ultimately, it would probably be the March meeting or maybe April meeting, depending on how quick things move, at the school board, where they would make that decision.
Mayor, cities across the state are kind of gearing up for spring break. A lot of them have had issues in the past and are putting in a lot more security measures this year. Do you know, have we had any issues, and are we going to be implementing any of the same kind of stuff?
Well, I think public safety is always going to be a focus for us, and that's probably a bigger priority, I would say, probably for the county in terms of the beach. That's probably the cities around Florida where they may see more issues is, all the beach goers and things like that. I have not been briefed. I've been here through one spring break. We didn't have an issue or any critical mass of issues during that time. So it's a busy time down here. Obviously, but really kicking off with this weekend, Mardi Gras all the way we used to joke there was a shoulder season in Pensacola back in the day. There really isn't one anymore. I think we get a month off. Maybe January, we get a month off. Everyone wants to be here for holidays. Then everyone wants to be here for spring break, and then next thing you know, it's beach season. So, no, here at the city, we haven't seen any significant issues, but obviously that's something that we'll monitor day by day, week by week, and hopefully it remains that way. Anything else?
Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
Have you gotten any reports from the police on the enforcement of the new roadside ordinance?
Yes, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. Since it's been adopted, we've given out 15 warnings so far. Remember, we were going to warn for 30 days. So we gave out 8 the week before and 7 this past week. So I forget I think it came in on Thursday. So I think it was 8 the first full week. But I know since it's been adopted, we've had 15 warnings go out. So we continue to make sure, and other counties, areas around the state that have adopted this the same ordinance, that's what they did, to just make sure that if there were folks that are frequently out there interfering with traffic, reaching into windows, things like that, that we make sure we're not. Again, the goal here is to change behavior. The goal is not to write someone a ticket. That's not what we're. But I will say the early indications is that the warnings have been helpful, in that we're able to get that message out to some folks that may be out there frequently or have been over the weeks or months, years, and let them know that that's not something they're going to be able to do. So yes, we'll continue to monitor that, and I've asked our police department to stay on top of making sure we're logging those warnings, so we make sure that we don't want to say we're going to warn and then not have any idea how many we gave out. So with 15 so far, with more to come, and I know our PPD has been pleased with the progress and the communication that's happened so far.
Have you heard any feedback from citizens or anything like that?
Not necessarily, but I would say I normally hear feedback on the opposite side. I love my job, but when things are going well, I don't get as many emails as when things maybe aren't going as well. So at this point, 15 months in, I take silence as a compliment sometimes in particular issues. To answer your question, we haven't heard any negative feedback. And we always are going to get emails about, especially visible homelessness, panhandling, and I say the same thing every time is, unfortunately, we've allowed the face of homelessness, as was talked about during the event that I was part of last week, the face of homelessness has become a vagrant, has become a panhandler. And that isn't everyone who's homeless in our community. And I would argue the majority of the homeless in our community is not that. But until we start separating those two groups, and so if there's things that we can do to, and certainly how the citizen can be involved, and citizens who email me is making sure that you're sharing that message that panhandling is not helping our community. That's not. You think you might be helping someone, and you're not. There are a lot of amazing resources in this community that help people. That if you have that extra dollar, or you want to volunteer that extra hour, that do an amazing job helping people who are already in process of wanting that hand up. That have women, children services. I mean, all these folks that you may not always see on the curb, but that you see in our shelters receiving services. And so, it's unfortunate in a way, because I wish all the public could see those people more often and not just see someone who may be panhandling on the corner downtown. So anyway, we're fortunate we've got that ordinance to stop interfering with traffic, and we have given out those 15 warnings, and we'll see how things go from here.
Mayor, is there any daylight between you and Alex Andrade on the Baptist ask?
I think we continue full steam ahead. I mean, I've maintained the same position for months and months and months that this is going to be a single year ask, and why? Because this is a 15-year project. We don't. Frankly, the city's taking on such a commitment and such a burden to be, as I said in our meeting yesterday, I'm signing this administration and the next administration up for a significant project. Forget money for a second, just the bandwidth and time and the investment of what goes here, the community engagement, all of those things. So while it's donated property, there will be no organization that will be more committed to this and is more committed to this than we are. Senator Broxton's fully aware of that. I expect that that we're going to be successful getting some funding. And so, I can't speak to his concerns, but I can tell you we're full steam ahead, and I expect that our delegation at the end of the day will see this as a transformational project and hopefully support it.
Mayor, during the Children's Trust Executive Director process, search process, it came up that possibly the trust, some of their revenue should be going into the TIFs, the CRAs.
Mm-hmm.
Is the city going to approach, have y'all done any work on that? Or do you plan on approaching them about paying into the CRA?
I know the only thing I'm aware of so far, I'll get you a more clear answer, is I know that conversation has come up in the building. I know that's come across my desk. Whether we've taken a stance on that or have any finality with that, I don't believe so, or I would expect I would know if that we had said this is what we plan on doing. But that has been a conversation in the building, I know at some point, and I can find out and get a more updated answer on where we are.
Mayor,
Mhm.
to your final
No, that's all right.
question, sorry. Have you heard about the state bill that's looking to eliminate police oversight committees? And basically, what do you think about it? Do you think these boards are valuable?
I don't have much comment on it. We don't have any of those operating, and I know whatever the board was in the prior administration, I don't think it was technically an oversight committee. I think it was just a citizen-based committee. So the city doesn't really have a history of that. And look, we should always, as a city, as a police department, be transparent in how we communicate and what we do, and I think we do that. But I also have a lot of trust in the people that put their life on the line when they leave their house every morning. And so I fully support them. And I think if you talk to the leadership of our police department, we're interacting with our community and getting feedback from them all of the time. And so I had no plans or intentions at this point of ever having some type of board like that. And so I don't think that legislation, wherever it goes, would necessarily affect us one way or the other. But again, I continue to support. I think our team does a great job, and my only concern would be is if they were unwilling to listen to our citizens, and I get zero indication of that. I think we do a great job getting outreach with the community, and really our surveys suggest as such. Our city continually, with police and fire, continually to rate them very highly in terms of their service with the folks that have interacted with them. So I think we're doing a good job, and we'll see what happens with the legislation.
What are your thoughts about your dad throwing in his hat in the rain for his game recognition? And what do you say to people who suggest it could lead to city-county deals?
Yeah. I guess what I'd say is, I'll be 40 in March, and Dad's 85, and so we all we make our own decisions. But look, obviously, I love my dad. I've learned a lot from him over 40 years of time that has helped me in this job be more prepared for this job. He's done amazing things, transformational things in this city. My expectation is that the governor will be looking for an appointment of someone who plans on running again. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think that's something that Jim plans on doing, and so it's not my decision to make, obviously, but my expectation is that the appointment's going to be going to someone, which makes total sense, to going to someone that the governor would be able to appoint, and then also they would potentially run and stay in that seat. So so that's where I think it's at right now. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.